Can you maybe give an example when you're talking within the context of assistive technology, maybe a pupil that you've been involved with where maybe things didn't go as to plan? So you've got your technology, you've got staff, but things just didn't go kind of work out.
So I remember a number of years ago I was working with a pupil who had cerebral palsy. She had very, very high tone and she used to have a lot of involuntary spasms as well that often involved her head. And I was thinking I was doing the right thing, working alongside an occupational therapist, and we were looking at how we could work with this pupil to try and give them the skills to teach them to access computers and other equipment using a switch, because they couldn't use a keyboard, they couldn't use a mouse because of their physical difficulties, they had very limited movement. They had a degree of movement in their head, so we had thought, well, we will try and use a head switch to try and teach them switch access. And we spent a very long time working with this pupil over a course of a year, trying to see if we could support them in their learning to try and work out that when they press the switch, they are making something happen on the computer. And it was frustrating for the pupil, it was frustrating for us because of the degree of their physical difficulty and the high tone which they weren't able to control, and also when they got very excited their tone became higher as well, so it meant that head switching as an access method really wasn't a solution. And when I look back on it now, as often is the case, you reflect on things and you think all the things you should have done differently. We were thinking about head switch access because that was the equipment that we had. Limited budget, limited amount of equipment. We found a mount to put the head switch on, we found a switch, we thought, well, we'll use that. But actually, when you reflect back on it, I think really it should have been a different access point. They should have been using something like a chin switch. Yeah. So something that wasn't something that was going to be much physically easier for them to use. Yeah. So I think it was a good lesson to me in terms of always thinking a step ahead, thinking about the bigger picture, trying to take a step back from things, and if they aren't working, rather than thinking you just hadn't got either the motivating song on the computer right, or there were other physical factors involved, actually thinking about, is this the right thing that we are trying to use with this young person?
So in that context, what were the specific barriers then, do you think? Was it budget, or were there other reasons that maybe you didn't think of a chin switch, or a chin switch wasn't available, or?
I think there were several things, but budget certainly came into it, because the discussion about buying new equipment wasn't even a discussion that was had. But I think particularly, well, in all aspects of teachings, the more you know, the more you realise you don't know, and I think there was a lack of awareness on both of our parts about actually what was involved. So there was a knowledge aspect to it as well, in terms of what we were thinking would be appropriate, and also I think as well, there were other ways that there were better ways we could have gone around it. I think we could have probably been more collaborative about it as well. And that was probably because of time. Time was very limited. So I would say time was a factor, budget was a factor, lack of knowledge was a factor.